Hey guys, and welcome back to another weekly horoscope. Today we're going to be looking at the astrology of October 12th through the 18th, 2021. My name's David. I'm your astrologer from HC Astrology. Thanks for being here and thanks for all your support, sharing, liking, commenting, and subscribing these videos. It all means a lot to me, so keep it coming. Thank you. I'm still out of the studio, as you can see. So we're just going to keep going as we go. But if you want to book a consultation with me, super easy. Just go down to the description box, hit the link to my website, and head over to booking a service. You can use my scheduling system. It's super easy. You can find a date and time that works for you. Okay, let's jump right into the astrology. So this week, we're adjusting now to the big changes, the beginnings and endings that took place the week before. Things are kind of settling down compared to the dynamic week prior, especially from that double Kazemi, all that's been revealed, made clear, brought into consciousness, things that we're reestablishing, especially faith in relationships, and how we're going to move forward with balance and consideration. So this week, there's a lot more supportive and harmonizing aspects to the week. It should help us to find that faith again, help us to trust the process of where we're going, the negotiation, to agree on something that is difficult, maybe to be patient and tolerant towards. Now we've made some sort of decision, especially in the week prior, and now it's time to kind of practice the faith and move forward with that compassionately on some level. So the big things happening this week, first of all, on Tuesday, October 12th, is the first quarter moon you can see there. That's when the moon will square the sun. And then Venus is going to sextile with Saturn the next day. And then we got that Sun-Jupiter trine. That's really the biggest positive thing of the week. And then the sun will square with Pluto just as Jupiter and Mercury station direct. And then we get that Mars trine Jupiter right at the very end of the week. That's going to kind of like flavor into next week though. Okay, so let's break this down one thing at a time as we usually do. So starting from the top, we're on Monday, the October 12th. Let me just bring up some of the aspects here so we can see what's going on. All right, okay. So kind of from the top, moon's still in Capricorn. It's going to move into square all those planets in Libra. So kind of from the beginning, we're just kind of going, whoops, moving by day there. So let's move that back. So hours. So first things first, we get the moon moving into trines with Uranus and the square to Mercury. So moon's going to square with Mercury. Like I've said often with the moon squaring Mercury, not great time for communication. For sending out some super important messages, especially ones that we're feeling a lot about, that we're very emotional about on some level. Moon's in Capricorn anyway, so our emotions are not really in a super comfortable place. We're not feeling the space for emotions is not in a fully comfortable place. We kind of have to put them aside to get some work done, to be a bit more serious, be a bit more steely and cold, so to speak. And so, it's not a great time to send out a message to the world, to make some sort of big exchange of some kind. Mercury's still retrograde. It's coming to the end of its retrogradation. So Mercury's really starting to slow down too. And that means that Mercury's going to be intensifying, which means words could be, doubly cutting, doubly troublesome, doubly intensified, especially after Mercury just finished that conjunction to Mercury. So it could be intense a little bit. So just be aware of that if you're planning to send out or say something difficult or sensitive at this time, because it may not be heard the way we want it to be heard, and we may end up having our worlds, come up. Our words come up too serious or cold or steely, maybe even silent. So it may just not be the best time to have that conversation. Then the moon is going to trine with Uranus directly after. So it's kind of translating that conversation there. So on one level, not a great place to have a conversation, but then we're getting some support from this Uranian energy, this kind of revolutionary, emancipatory energy in Taurus. So something that has to do with Venus, really, like what's going on with Venus, having fun, being adventurous, doing things differently, maybe getting in touch with new art, something avant-garde, something different. So this is about connecting instead with that which is maybe unexpected, sudden, a change of plans, innovative, different. Where's that Taurus part of your life? And that's where there's going to be interesting and exciting connection of some kind. So find enjoyment from that, maybe from the avant-garde, like I said, from the unique, and just go with that. So the moon continues, and then it's going to form squares first to Mars, and then the sun. We'll get that first quarter moon. So I feel like the square to the Mars is really just reinforcing what I was saying about the square to Mercury. Emotions are kind of inflamed on some level, or things are a bit inflamed. They could be confronted. Maybe our emotional selves are off from where our relational aspects are going on right now. So there's something kind of inflamed, maybe emotionally frustrating. Emotions are not able to come out really the way we want them to. It's not especially comfortable with the moon in Capricorn. Mars is also in Libra. So they're in each other's exiles or detriments. So they're not really in a place that they feel accepted in on some level, that there's space for them to be themselves. So it's just not really a good time to really confront things. There may be hostility and passions to moods right now. Words may be hostile, energies may be confrontational, and perhaps it's a good idea to just maybe let things go, focus instead on what our intentions have been from the Libra new moon instead, because just moments later we get the first quarter moon. So moon squares the sun, crisis in action. We're seeing the first challenges to the intentions and beginning of what occurred the other week during the Libra new moon. Now's the time to push forward, to choose a direction, the direction that we started with. Go with that. You're not going to be able to do everything in a single lunation, so just try to do what you can. There's going to be setbacks, of course, and maybe we can reestablish what our purpose is in the plot line of this lunar cycle. Moon's in Capricorn, so it's not a very emotional place to express our emotions. Instead, it's a place to do things, to work on something, to take action on something, to get our heads down, to concentrate on responsibilities, routines, taking small steps towards bigger goals, sometimes 2 steps backwards, 1 step forwards, just seeing that it's all going somewhere. That's not to totally say, ignore and disregard what we're feeling. That's not what I'm saying, but it may just be a time, and I think this is kind of the vibe of the week in general. It may just be a time to consolidate our energies, refocus our feelings, and use them to get things done. Maybe to get things done that we want or need to get done, to see that direction set during this lunation cycle, to take shape, especially to blossom once we get that Aries new full moon next week. So it's time to practice on some level of restraint and calmly do the work to remember that things maybe are not always going to be, they're never going to be 100% ideal, but maybe right now they're not fully at a place of the bar that we've set for ourselves in terms of ideals. But it doesn't mean that it's going to be like that forever. So try not to get too emotionally involved. Just do what needs to be done. Remember, this too shall pass. And I think it's cool to note that the moon's also moving into the application of the sextile with Neptune, which kind of leads into tomorrow. And so I think that's really just reminding us that, like, okay, maybe there's some harshness to something we want out of an agreeable situation. Maybe we want to confront something, but it's not really the right time to. And I think that connection to Neptune is like, give yourself a break, escape a little bit. There's going to be the Venus sextile Saturn tomorrow, Tuesday night into Wednesday. It's going to be like a lovely series of transits. So just kind of relax into it, let things go as they need to get gone. It's not, like I said, it's like Mars is not in a good situation, Moon's not a good situation, Mercury's still retrograde, combust. So easy does it. All right, moving into Wednesday. So like I said, first things first, Moon's going to sextile with Neptune. So, might have been, especially if you're in the Eastern Seaboard. I think I didn't note it at the beginning of this, but if you're new to watching my channel, I read the astrology for wherever I'm traveling, wherever I am located. So I'm going to be reading it from that location. but you can really, really read the astrology from anywhere. Maybe I'm going to say certain things like night and day on when a transit's happening, but just adjust the time to wherever you are. The astrology all means the same. It's like the background noise. Anyway, so we get that first sextile to Neptune. And I think we can kind of lean into that, find a way to reharmonize, to mend things emotionally that we need to. Remember, there's going to be time for sensitivity later, when the moon's going through Pisces, and then we're going to be able to express ourselves more once the moon's in Aries. So, it may be like a night or a morning to realign, reconnect with our dreams, transcend a bit of this mundanity of what's going on in Capricorn. Things felt too serious. Maybe this is a chance to kind of soothe and escape that a bit. Feel like there's a place to let go of the world for a little while, to kind of live in the fantasy, so to speak, especially ones that we hold dear. So then moon keeps going through Cap, conjoins with Pluto. So this is kind of like the outside bigger circumstance. Be sure that the moon has been feeling some fears. Fears maybe are coming up, but not really having to place to express or communicate them while the moon's in Capricorn. But maybe on some level, we can integrate that a little bit. We can get in touch with, become more intimate with that which is maybe rejuvenating, regenerating, purging. See those fears as something that's something that we can feel and integrate with. Our feelings aren't going to kill us. Pluto is also stationed direct last week, so there is an intensification there that's kind of set in stone, for so to speak. So it may not make total sense at this time what's going on, but now we have a chance to maybe feel what we've been fearful about, see how taking action on those fears helps us to release ourselves of the control our fear has over us, maybe find a new way to process fear, to let go of it, to use it as a regenerative principle that encourages us to establish new motivations, to work through our problems, move forward rather than be controlled by them, so to speak. Okay, and then basically right after that, moon keeps settling up what's happening in Cap as Venus perfects the sextile with Saturn. So yeah, it's going to make this is what are sextiles? They're the nature of Venus. So there's something about modifying, harmonizing, and this is kind of like the ability to make an easy modification or fix to some of the recent intensifications of Saturn after Saturn had stationed retrograde just the other day. I'm sorry, stationed direct just the other day. So now that you see how Saturn's it has this red on the numbers of its degrees, its location, that means that it's direct now. It's technically starting to move forward, but Saturn moves very slowly, so it's kind of frozen there. That's kind of intensifying things. So, but overall, this is a pretty nice combination with Venus and Saturn. And although I would say it's overall, really healthy, mending combination, it is also slightly counterintuitive on some level. Venus is in Sagittarius, Saturn's in Aquarius. They're in very kind of different places, although can be complementary. So on one level, Venus in Sagittarius wants to be light, wants to be easy, fun, go on adventures, do things for the sake of doing them, go big. It's in a Jupiter sign, so go big, be reckless a bit, but have fun. While Saturn in Aquarius is basically like, and it's at a standstill, it's like, it's intense, it's determined, wants to make things work, doesn't want to do things differently now that it's like figured out what it wants to do. Looks only at the bigger picture, doesn't see the day-to-day, kind of is feigning an appearance of some kind so that it can focus on the future and find more control, try to figure things out. And Venus is not there. Venus is somewhere else. Venus is having fun. Sure, the ruler of Venus is in Aquarius, Jupiter. And so on some level, there's a way of understanding that. I think that's what the sextile is suggesting too, is that there's definitely an understanding between, relationship, fun, pleasure, joy, playfulness, and seriousness, responsibility, structures, boundaries, rules. So, Saturn's kind of serious right now, setting boundaries of things, how they're going to work, but Venus just wants to have fun. So, what do we do? And that's why I think it's a good thing that it's a sextile. It's like, although they're on kind of different pages, there is a harmonizing bond between them. There's common ground. There's a collaboration, a way of keeping the peace between things without getting too serious or conflicting, even. But it may be a bit off for both the planets. So I'm just pointing that out. It's not necessarily that they're 100% getting their needs met. Both planets are at least being amiable. They're doing their best to give each other the space and respect that they deserve, but there's something kind of off. So I kind of see this overall. I see this aspect less as like playful, fun, harmonizing, and more like respectful. Maybe it's not the most romantic desire meeting circumstance or situation or whatever, but it's definitely respectful. Everyone's trying to get along because they care more about each other than the meeting of wants and desires, so to speak, and demands and expectations. Okay, and then Moon moves right into Aquarius right after that. So it's a shifting mood, changes the circumstances. Now, things are more in this Aquarius setting. We're feeling where things are going, the bigger picture, the future potentialities, keeping up appearances, what Saturn's doing to maintain some sort of order, taking a position in some sort of paradigm, or whatever decision we've set forth with the way we're going to build that picture, and feeling our place in that. So that's kind of the start of that. Once the moon moves into Aries, we're going to be more like setting our position in it individually. But for now, it's about feeling it out. It's about, Saturn just stationed direct. So the moon's connecting with that. We're integrating that. That's that recent change. So it's an interesting transit of the moon through Aquarius this time, especially in this cycle. Not only does it have to conjoin with Saturn and activate the Uranus-Saturn square, but it's also trining with this traffic jam of planets here in Libra, as well as sextile with the recently lightened up Venus and Sag. So, Saturn's also stationed direct. Jupiter is going to station direct later in the week. So the moon's kind of integrating and preparing the mood, feeling it out. What is Saturn intensifying right now? How has Jupiter been doing the last months in Aquarius? What still needs to be done before Jupiter can leave Aquarius in December? These are the things that we're feeling out, that we're integrating, nurturing, holding space for, reflecting on, all these moon things. So we know where we stand, where we're going, what the next step is we have to take. And that's kind of it for the rest of Wednesday. So let's just pop over into Thursday. So the day opens with that Saturn moon conjunction, or moon Saturn conjunction. So as usual, every time there's a moon Saturn conjunction, something stops or slows down. There's a delay of some kind, there's an obstacle, there's something in the way. But there's also this recognizing of things shifting. Significant force is beginning to redirect and overcome some sort of inertia. And even though it means that there's a delay or a separation of some kind, these Saturnian significations, because the moon follows up with the sextile to Venus, like immediately after that conjunction, there's a playfulness to it. There's an excitement, even a novelty, a pleasure. We can have fun with it, even though it's not, what we're exactly expecting. It's still good to feel, and there's a sense that we can enjoy this little delay. Maybe even we can enjoy being held back from whatever else has kind of been pushing forward on some level, especially because the moon is increasing in light. So there's this sense that things are building up, but then there's this delay, but it's something we're kind of enjoying. So try to enjoy it, is what I'm saying. And then, the moon perfects the sextile to Venus, feeling good, having fun, enjoying maybe the weather, getting some fresh air, climbing something, hiking down a new path. Venus is in Sag. These like kind of adventurous moods are going to be fun. Seeing something beautiful out in the open air, Aquarius, or down a new path, connecting and mending things in a relationship through having fun, doing things maybe even separate from others, giving each other the space you need, then coming together to do what you love. So it's this idea of like, okay, interdependent relationship. You do you, come together, you do each other. It's like that. Anyway, then the moon will trine with Mercury. So that's good. So now it's time to communicate whatever you couldn't the other day. To be as matter of fact about it, because it's still a Saturnian sign in Aquarius. And Mercury's still retrograde, so you don't want to jumble up what you're saying too much. Maybe it's not time to get into the nitty gritty of things, but you can at least connect to it, be supportive about it, connect with others in general, communicate something that, although it doesn't have to be completely emotional or deep, it can even be kind of superficial on some level. It's at least supportive. It reveals a connection to others, shares in the suffering, so to speak, or in the position of progress, considers each other's place in things and tries to express that, but also not, maybe, like I said, right now is the best time to figure it all out, but instead maybe just to commit to the future, to commit to getting a bit deeper in the topics later on. So this is like the giving and receiving of a communication or exchange that maybe we want or need to hear. And then the moon activates that Uranus square. So maybe it's not time to be reckless right now. It's not time to take a risk or be unpredictable. Right now, we want to know where we stand, be calm in the face of something that maybe is shaking things up, or be more in touch with things, how they're going in terms of what we've integrated from connecting with Saturn, connecting with the slowness of things, through the steadiness of things, through what we're trying to build on, rather than doing something random because it might be exciting, right? So there might be an unexpected circumstance to how things are progressing so far too, especially in this lunation. We're coming up to the waxing gibbous, and when the moon's there, it's going to be out of touch with the sun. So our feelings in the story are going to be kind of off. So this might be something that's shaking things up before we get there. So try not to, if things get unsettled, although it's not according to plan, there's no sense in letting it totally break down whatever plan's going on. It's just something unexpected, deal with it, and then, move on. All right, that's it for Thursday. Let's move into Friday. So moon first will trine with Mars, just as the sun trines with Jupiter. So Mars, this is nice for Mars, especially, I think, because Mars is in combustion of the sun. Mars is debilitated in Libra. It had its one moment to kind of pierce through the uncertainty during the Cazimi last week, so it shows some directness in whatever decision-making process is going on in Libra for you or wherever. It's now getting, it's getting the supportive, nurturing connection to the circumstances of things, to the mood and what we're doing now, where we're at versus how our passions want to be expressed and directed. Mars is in a position where, although it's not necessarily comfortable or able to express itself directly at this time, it can at least get some support from the circumstances as they stand. It can feel confident that others are also doing the best to navigate their own frustrations as well, with having to compromise maybe their passions as well for others. So that we are understanding that the peace needs to be maintained on some order for everyone to survive and get along. So I kind of see this as like getting out of a difficult situation, connecting now with maybe the guidelines of what are being laid out in terms of the situation, but being in a new situation, so to speak. So it's like, let's say there was a worry or a problem with something and there was a consequence to that, but the consequences were you kind of navigated it, and now there's like kind of rules that have been set in place for how to move forward with things. And so this is kind of understanding the rules of that, playing within and knowing that we just can't go full steam right now. We have to play by the rules if we want to get along and keep moving, so to speak. And I think it's important to recall here too that Mars is getting ready to move into Scorpio in the coming weeks. By the end of October, Mars will be in its domicile Scorpio. So things are not going to stay this passive peacetime carefulness forever. There's going to be changes to the things to come. But for now, it's about keeping the peace. The moon's trine to Mars helps us to maintain the peace, even if it's not a total comfort zone for all things Martian, like efforts, directness, challenges, confrontation, and things like that. Independence. Right, and then, of course, at the same time, basically, the sun perfects the trine to Jupiter. Basically, just as the moon conjoins with Jupiter. So this is really nice, hopeful, motivational, supportive, beneficial, reputation enhancing, story building and expanding. This is a great and unifying thumbs up to things that help the overall direction of things to overcome any energy drains or pitfalls that the sun in Libra has been experiencing, or the inflammations of frustrations because of the Mars co-presence there. This is also outside parties and benefactors from Jupiter coming to the rescue to prop up an already maybe depleted and worn thin energies of the sun. This is also just good luck made manifest. Our wills are fulfilled, so to speak. Our expectations of how we want things to go are given a boost on some level, a reminder that there's hope at the end of the tunnel. This is maybe the righting of a wrong on some level, the power to create and expand things beyond the way the story has been narrated thus far during this chapter, especially this Libra chapter as the sun goes through Libra. This is the hope we need to keep going. Still, it's not all about us alone, right? It's about the sun in Libra. So this means relationship, doing things with others, partnership between people, how getting support is going to help that story of relationship to develop, blossom, and grow. To reclaim hope in that story where we've maybe had to put our egos aside to allow for a bigger picture to become something we want, even if it's not necessarily something we understand yet. Right, and like I said, right after that, the moon conjoins with Jupiter. So, it's also trining the sun. So just before it moves into Pisces. So the circumstances are right. The story is unfolding as it should. Everything and everyone is getting along. The big seems possible. The small feels important, long lasting, part of something that is taking us towards where we want to go, where we feel makes the most sense of things. It's like the as above, so below in the best sense of the words. So yeah, that's going to be nice. I think Friday is going to be nice because that basically like flavors things as the moon moves into Jupiter's sign of Pisces, through the whole day basically. And then moon moves into Pisces right at the end of the day. So now we get that there's a feeling of hope and faith, emotional redemption of some kind through unity, integration of our visions and dreams, the recognition of weakness, understanding that humility is all part of the process of serenity, becoming inclusive and sensitive, allowing others to and ourselves to be sensitive and emotional a bit more as we soften the edges and loosen up a bit through the emergence of living our dreams. So that's it for Friday. Let's pop into Saturday. So first things first, moon is going to make the square. You can't see it because I don't have those aspects showing up, but the moon's now, so moon was, 3 degrees Pisces. That means moon is square the nodes, the north and south node. Moon's also in its waxing gibbous phase. It's preparing to culminate for the full moon only a few days from now. There's going to be illuminations of what's about to release on some level. instinctual levels. With the moon, it's all about instinct and feeling. So what's about to be clarified and culminated, we're beginning to see and know what it is that's been maybe held back recently, what is about to be unleashed, what is going to need a great deal of tolerance, patience, love, and compassion to face and meet as we deal with these new dynamic powers, authority, strength, etc., especially as the moon does the full moon in Aries. So essentially, this lunar transit through Pisces is kind of a chance to get a break, to find a space to feel the feels, so to speak. Do that also without the seriousness or judgments of the rest of the world, to even be a bit dreamy without fearing it doesn't fit in with the plans or the story of everyone else, of our immediate environment or contextual circumstances. This is like getting the bathroom break you need. So yeah, I think this moon through Pisces transit is going to be it's going to be nice. It's going to be a nice little like bathroom break. Right, but the moon squares the nodes. And I just want to point this out because it's the first time in a long time where the building up of the waxing moon matches with the increasing nature of the north node. Because so far it's always been opposite. As soon as the moon gets to squaring the nodes, it's already in a waning phase. So there's this contrast between what we're feeling and what's happening. So the first time we're feeling like there's a rhyme to the reason, to the worldly material nature of going and going. This is kind of getting entangled and not worrying too much about that, because there's a sense of maybe rewards to come when we follow our dreams, or that this building up makes sense to us at this time. We're building up on something, there's increasing of things happening, so it feels natural. So that's the first time it's kind of happened in a while. I haven't heard anybody else really talk about that. But yeah, and then the moon's going to square with Venus. Just before it makes the it's just before Mercury perfects its sextile to Venus. So although there's this like coming to an agreement between where the pleasure is being found and what agreements are being figured out between Mercury and Venus, the circumstances of things may not be ideal for having the most for allowing our emotions to be free enough to have all that fun we're having right now, so to speak, if that makes sense. Instead, they're kind of on different pages. Our emotions are somewhere really sensitive, maybe touchy-feely, with the moon in Pisces, but then we're having fun. We're on an adventure. We're doing something new, exciting with Venus in Sagittarius. And maybe it's not the best time to be all touchy-feely, so to speak, being emotional blobs on the floor that maybe need hugging and consoling all the time, maybe. But instead, it might just be time to have fun. Let the feelings pass for now. Remember, they're only feelings. They're not going to kill us. There's going to be a better time for discussing our feelings, for doing something about our feelings, for expressing them, for feeling them, for nurturing them later. And I mean, of course, if you need to do that now, then do it. I'm not saying don't do that. I'm just saying that if you're in a circumstance which is not really matching up with things that are happening, where there is this chance to have fun right now, maybe it's okay to, hold off till you can express them better once the moon's in Aries. There's going to be more of a circumstance for things to be expressed better then. Right now it doesn't really make so much sense in the bigger scheme of things to kind of, be so caught up and like indulging in our emotions right now. And I think it's not to say to downplay what you're feeling. I'm just trying to understand that there is a time and place for these things. Right now may be more beneficial to you even, and to everyone else involved, if the feelings are felt, but maybe not let out to disrupt or to inflict your feelings onto the overall, maybe even celebration of something. There's going to be a right time and space for those feelings to express, like I said. especially once the moon's in Aries. But perhaps right now, it's not the best circumstance for that. Like I said, all means take the space you need to feel your feelings. Just remember that you may be escaping if you indulge for too long. Remember, moon's in Pisces, co-present with Neptune, the planet of escape, illusions, delusions, not reality, right? So just remember that you may be escaping. The moon's applying to the conjunction with Neptune. And if we escape for too long and those feelings too far, then we're missing all the good things that are happening, all the pleasure to connecting and bonding vibes that Venus and Sag is finding out in the world, having an adventure, having fun. So just try not to be, a total downer if you can. That's all I'm saying. Try not to be like a wet blanket, so to speak, if you know what I mean. Anyway, hope that came off as light as I wanted it to. All right, moving on. So yeah, Mercury then perfects the sextile to Venus. And, then we get this healing kind of soothing sextile between two planets that really needed it. And this is like the biggest aspect these two planets can make to each other. Actually, they can't make any other aspect than conjunction and sextile. So it's a great aspect for helping to cool off Mercury, especially after it went through that conjunction with Mars, where it got really extreme in heat. It's also about to station direct in a couple days, so it's having prolonged exposure to the heat, especially after it's still technically under the beams, but after having been combust under the sun. It's just been cooked up, Mercury. So this is like a way for it to soothe off, to temper out, to cool down. Mercury and Venus are also technically mutually applying to one another. So Venus is direct, Mercury's retrograde. That means that they're moving into the aspect with one another. It's not that one's catching up to the other, which means they're heading into one another and not in a collision, which would be like a square or even an opposition or even a conjunction maybe, but rather a rendezvous. Venus is having fun with the big, getting pleasure from doing things for the future, enjoying the adventure of life, even if it's full of uncertainty. It's having faith that things are going to work out, love will prevail, so to speak. Mercury's in Venus's sign. It gets that notion. It understands that there's exchanges to be made in order for that bigger picture to make more sense. Figuring out things in relationship and peacemaking that will aid Venus in the long journey of living that, best life, so to speak. It's like understanding, coming to agreement that whatever Venus is seeing and feeling and having this good time and enjoying makes sense. It's worth doing things, and it's worth figuring out things to help that enjoyment sustain. So yeah, I like that. I like that that will help to overcome maybe the challenges of the Moon Venus square. And then the moon's going to sextile with Uranus. So again, I think this is like emphasizing things that it's like emphasizing this idea that things that are exciting, out of the box, these are going to help us to readjust, to reharmonize, to bring some peace to the circumstances that may be feeling extra sensitive right now. So do something out of the box, be creative, inventive, inventive in your method to freeing yourself from the overly sensitive, maybe urge to escape, to be alone, to isolate. You'll be doing yourself and others a favor if you find a way to do something with everyone else in a way that's exciting, fun, unique. All right, so that's Saturday. So let's just go into Sunday. So first things off, the sun perfects the square to Pluto. So this kind of is going to flavor the day in a strange way. I think this makes the transit of Moon through Pisces the strangest in a way. Compared to especially the day before, the last 2 days. So there's a challenge to get over maybe oneself and enjoy the moment, as well as maybe have fun in exciting ways in the past days. but then there's this kind of illuminating of something from the darkness, something coming up, something is purging or releasing that needs to be released. Now might be even the better time to allow some of the feelings you've been having to release on some level, to be revealed. Maybe it's not exactly to say that something about it or to act on those things, but maybe it's, maybe the things are just shown more, they're seen, they're understood, that something's being revealed. The sun's shining direct light onto Pluto, which is a planet of invisibility, secretiveness, and the unknown outer realms. So there may be something secretive and dark that we didn't realize was there before, that maybe is a bit scary now that we're seeing it more clearly. And although sun is generally a benefiting and warm, radiant planet that wants to encourage things, the aspect of the square is forceful. It's the nature of Mars, and it's kind of conflicting. Plus, the sun's in Libra, so it's not at its best levels of energies to deal with things that may be getting revealed right now. So this could be troubling on some levels, but I don't think it's anything to kind of lose any sleep over yet. It's not the first time that the sun has squared Pluto either, since Pluto's been in Capricorn for a long time. So it's just revealing something. It's not, like I said, not something to lose your sleep over, but Pluto did just station direct. So, and then Mars is going to square Pluto next week. So it's kind of, I think it's revealing something about the Aries full moon that's coming up, really. And, maybe it's just a hard pill to swallow, or maybe it's a revelation about things we've been ignoring, but now we can't ignore. We have to look at them, even if we don't want to, because if we don't, we're going to have to deal with them later anyway. So maybe it's a good idea to look at them anyway. Anyway, so the moon conjoins with Neptune, and I think in the mix of things through this day, this is kind of the chance to still be a bit romantic, to escape, to allow for feelings to happen, to dissolve a bit, to leave the hard things behind, to soften up, to delve a little bit into what feels more nourishing, tempering, calming. Of course, this might be an attempt to escape something, especially something that's being revealed right now. It may also be that we are seeing and understanding things from a confusing and foggy circumstance. We're not getting all the pieces to the puzzle yet. So it's best not to jump to conclusions. Take a breath. Whatever it is, it's not the end of the world. Just take one thing at a time. You'll get through this. The fog's going to clear eventually. I was thinking, like, in other words, I think it's a good idea right now to listen to the fog horns as you try to, approach the shore. And, moon's going to sextile with Pluto right after that. So, by the end of the day, maybe we're in a place that this bit of fogginess or ideal rose-tinted colored glasses, maybe that's where we are right now, but it may be what we need in order to maybe cope with and deal with what's been maybe revealed earlier from the sun squaring Pluto. This is maybe us, again, attempting to soften the edges, adjust to the reality of things in a way that kind of works for us on an emotional level, to find common ground to something that we might be afraid of. This is understanding that there's still hope, because through the dealing of our fears, there's going to be regenerative and cathartic release that occurs later on. And it's going to help us to rise up, to level up, to find that life and death, mushrooms growing out of the dead tree, so to speak. And so that's it for Sunday. So let's just move right into Monday. And first thing is that Jupiter stations direct. And then the moon moves into Aries. And I'm going to break these down one at a time, but I just want to point these out. And then all this change is happening. And then Mercury stations direct. So Jupiter and Mercury are now direct. Jupiter's in Aquarius, Mercury's in Libra. Both are in air signs. Both are in supportive testimony to one another. They might be not by degree-based aspect. That will come soon. That will come at the beginning of November. But they are in sign-based supportive testimony with one another. Jupiter's in Aquarius, has joined Saturn now and stationing direct. So, if you know your chart, look at your chart. Where's Aquarius? Because this is where you're going to start to note there's going to be noticeable shifts, noticeable changes, the momentum, the sense of things not having been going forward for a while, the sense that there's been inertia or lack of inspiration or motivation in some part of this part of life. It should now begin to reveal a change on some level, a turn of directions. Things will start to feel some possibility again. They're going forward. They're going to say yes rather than no. And I think it's important, Jupiter's a planet of cohesion, affirmation, support, faith, abundance, expansion, growth that is long lasting, unifying, harmonious to the greater whole. And now that Jupiter is stationed direct, expect the abilities of this part of life, Aquarius, to experience these sorts of shifts, that faith, which is returning. The doors open, the light turns green. And that where there was maybe resentment, doubt, and fear, there's maybe now acceptance, love, and faith. And then Mercury. Mercury is the planet of symmetry, of the mundane, the mediator, messenger, trader. Essentially, Mercury is the planet of exchange across borders. This is why Mercury represents language, money, information, commerce itself. So with Mercury stationing direct alongside Jupiter in Libra, we can also expect communications again in relationship and exchanges in relations to occur where we're certain, after having gone through some sort of decision-making process, that we're now ready to take action on. We're ready to go forward with them. We're ready to go forward based in a fairness or balance we have navigated through. And now we've had some tools to be more fluid, be more flexible. So this feels like the gears are shifting. And there's movement again after a long period of things maybe having not progressed, especially in the way that we want them to have progressed. And that may have been frustrating. Now, of course, Mercury station direct is important, but the coupling of stations of Saturn last week or earlier this week with Jupiter now, it's all the more significant with this Mercury stationing direct. So all those Aquarius parts of life that feel like they're bigger or grander, long-term projects or plans that have gone through that major restructuring process of all the retrogradation there, they're starting to see a change of pace, progress, a follow through with building plans, so to speak. We're beginning to see the building emerge from the foundations. When you see like a building site and for like so long, it's just a big ditch in the ground, then over the course of a very short amount of time, a building emerges out of it. So it's kind of like that. Still, it's not all exactly fun and games. Since, Saturn station direct also means that it's heading towards this collision with Uranus, who's still retrograde. So that means that at the end, it's going to be in December. So it means the two planets are gearing up for another like kind of hard square one another, and they're in mutual application. So, I was saying before with Venus and Mercury mutual application, it's like a rendezvous. These two mutual application, it's like a collision. It's like two trucks driving in the same direction towards one another. And that's building up to December 24th, Christmas 2021. Awesome. So yeah, with that in mind, and Jupiter's basically like, all right, it's time to get the hell out of Dodge. Jupiter's kind of come back to Aquarius for this reason. It's done all this work it needed to do, brought things together, these missing elements, helped to unify things in this greater whole that's been decentralized. Aquarius is a decentralized sign. But now it's time to leave. It's time for Jupiter to move back to Pisces. Of course, there's still a lot of drudgery for Jupiter to tackle. It still has to do some necessities before it can leave. It's kind of like you can't, okay, so last night was Thanksgiving in Canada, and we finish dinner, we do all these dishes, and then we have dessert, and there's still more dishes to do. It's kind of like that second round of dishes to do before you can enjoy the company again. I mean, of course, you can have fun in the kitchen and everything, but Jupiter wants to have fun. So Jupiter's going to be sextile Venus soon. So there's fun to be had on the way out, but there's still things to do. So this is Jupiter making a decision now that whatever needed to help and support with in Aquarius has been solidified. It did the work to set the things up to move forward. Now it just needs to settle those things up before the final goodbye to Saturn, who's going to be staying in Aquarius while Jupiter moves into Pisces, floating back into that dreamland, you know. So it's time for the final act of Jupiter in Aquarius, for Jupiter to finish its job in Aquarius, to move on to continuing, encouraging, and emotional redemption to growth in our Pisces area of life. So wherever you have Pisces, whatever's been when you experience that little bit of Jupiter from May to July this year, that's going to be more full force come 2022. So now's the time for resolution to occur after a month or so of setbacks, snafus, especially problems, especially during the recent Mercury retrograde and the last retrograde of Mercury in 2021. So for the most part, this week has been about us dealing with the changes that occurred the week prior, integrating all the new things that are changing and transitioning. And now that Jupiter and Mercury are stationed direct, it's all moving forward again. And there's an understanding that's developed. We can move with that. There's time to be a part of this change. And through that, we're going to move into the next stage of the year that's going to come, of course, with challenges. But, now we have this chance to kind of prepare, sharpen our tools, charge the batteries, whatever we need to do to deal with that later. Meanwhile, of course, the moon just moved into Aries. So there's another energetic shift, as well as sending us into those full moon vibes. Now the circumstances have shifted. They've shifted towards courage, assertiveness, dealing with fears, youthfulness, and that feeling of independence. And now also the moon's in Aries, it's also preparing to trine with Venus. So maybe before where our sensitivities didn't have a place to be overly sensitive, now we can express that. Now we can act on that. Now we can be direct and let others know that our feelings do matter. Maybe something did put us off, but it doesn't mean we have to destroy things. I think, the destruction sign is more Scorpio. Aries is more of like a confrontation sign. It's more of a, meeting something head on because that's the way to deal with it sometimes. It just means now we have the space to confront those things. Maybe we didn't have it before, now we do. And then, moon's going to sextile with Saturn, adjusting and modifying to where we're at circumstantially with the plan that's in motion, to where the bigger picture is forming, and to how we fit into that as individuals. Aries is all about individuality, ourselves. So how do we fit ourselves into the collective plan, one that's now really moving forward now that everything's direct, except for Uranus and Neptune, but more about that later. So again, it's not about figuring it all out so much as about just being ourselves and seeing how we're able to be ourselves alongside rules and regulations or, the commonality of others. So and then last things last, before I close up this report, is that, well, of course, we got that opposition of Moon to Mercury that's building up, but it's not exact yet. So that's more tomorrow, more for next week's report. But really the last thing happening in this report is Mars is going to trine to Jupiter. So Mars at 22 degrees Libra trines with Jupiter 22 degrees Libra. That's just stationed direct. And this is really like the biggest positive sign for me, that the Aries full moon, although it's going to be really dynamic and intense, it's also for the greater good. It's for something bigger than ourselves, that our efforts are not going to go to waste, that there's a reason things have been going the way they've been going. Then in some level, our lives have brought us to where we are in the here and now. I think this is a good thing, really, clearly. So, this is bestowing a blessing from that Aquarius part of life to the compromises and balancing act that we've been playing in our Libra part of life since Mars entered Libra on September 15th. Now we're getting a reward. We're receiving a powerful and large helping hand of support to where we've been feeling maybe out of place, off balance, not really sure if our efforts and struggles have been seen, heard, or understood. Jupiter is now direct, remember? So in fact, Jupiter is at a standstill. It means that Jupiter significations are intensified. as well as the intensifications of Saturn recently having station direct. So it means that Jupiter is making a change. It's making a stand. It's making it's making a stand to the way things have been going from here forward, saying that the mulling over has been done. Now the decision's made. This is the way the support is going to be dished out from this part of our lives going forward. And Mars needs this. It's been debilitated in one way or more than in one. It's been debilitated in many ways, mostly that it's in detriment and combust. But it means that that means that our usual mode of determination, directness, efforts, ways of dealing with conflict or struggles, and our overall confidence or courage has been unusually precarious in the circumstances. It's been in a precarious place. We've had to put our own needs aside for the needs of others or for the needs of a partnership or a group. And now Jupiter is showing us that that was worth it. There's a reason to not make everything all about ourselves, that patience, tolerance, acceptance, and agreeableness was part of something that will aid us in our efforts moving forward. And that's it for this week's report. So bring us back to seeing me. Let me get up. So yeah, next week, it's a little bit less in terms of the big transits as maybe the past 2 weeks have been, this week and last week. It's still going to be significant though, because what's going to be taking place of all these of the lunar cycle we're in, as well as this Mars-Pluto story and Pluto in general. So we get the Aries full moon, we get the Scorpio season beginning, Sun's going to move into Scorpio. So the Mars themes are really going to be emphasized, and then Mars is going to square Pluto next week. So it's really big Martian vibes next week. And although it's looking intense, it's also looking necessary, transformative, initiatory, regenerative, and powerful. We're doing more as the sun moves into Scorpio. We're getting more clarity on the power, the fear, the depth, and transformative qualities of the story so far. Things are going to be going through a cleansing process that once we're in Sagittarius season is going to have a great deal of redemption, of like that Phoenix reborn moment, and hope will meet us on this other side. So that's it for this week, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks for liking, commenting, subscribing. If you think these videos are going to help someone, or if you think somebody that you know is into astrology and wants to get more into the day-to-day lunar transits, daily transits, weekly transits, please share my videos. It all goes a long way. I also want to let everyone know that the monthly newsletter that I do with Perry Dust is out. If you want to subscribe to that, information is in the description box as well. Please check it out. I write horoscopes and I write an overview of the astrology for the month. Big labor of love. Perry does a coupling of curated images of art and cultural things. And it's a really beautiful labor of love. So I hope that you can check that out. Subscribe to it. It comes out monthly. All right, that's all for now. Wishing everyone the best. Enjoy this week, settle in, and keep rocking on. I'll see you guys next week, or I might not make the report next week because I'm going to be on a trip within my trip. But if I can do it, I will do it. All right. Lots of love, everybody. Easy does it. Bye for now.